الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا، ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا، ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به، واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath and who go not astray. Dear brothers and sisters, listeners, ladies and gentlemen, we continue with the Tafseer interpretation of Surat Yusuf, chapter Joseph in the Holy Quran, which narrates the story of one of the greatest prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It tells about his life, it tells about his tests and the hard time he went through. From the very beginning, when he was with his father, Prophet Jacob, until the end of his life. I choose this story because it tells a lot about us as individuals. It explains what happens in our lives. It also tells that what appears to be bad may not really be that bad after all. Also, we'll see continually through the story that Yusuf, Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, Prophet Joseph, he was actually tested where you would really think that he was favored. If you remember, his father loved him so much so that his 10 strong brothers, he had 11, but the elder ones were very envious of him. So that love that we always seek and wish we have brought him into the depth and darkness of a well. We also know that subsequent to that, he was lifted out from the well, but unfortunately for him, he was sold as a slave. He was a prophet, a son of a prophet, a grandson of a prophet, and a great grandson of a prophet. So his father was a prophet, grandfather was a prophet, Isaac, and Ibrahim was also his great grandfather, and yet he was sold as a slave. Eventually, he ended up with a man in Egypt. He seems to be an affluent man, but soon we learn that he was also influential. And he asked his wife to look after Yusuf in order that he may bring them some benefit. Some, they said that resell him, but I don't believe that was the intention. أو نتخذه ولدا, or to have him as a son. So I believe that perhaps the man who bought him looked at Prophet Yusuf. He looked at that chap, very handsome indeed, very polite. He was raised in the house of prophethood. He learned the best etiquette anyone can ever learn. So he may have seen something in that young chap, and he wanted his wife to look after him. Last week, let us go back to the story. We are at verse 23 of chapter Yusuf, which is chapter 12 in the Holy Quran. We treated this ayah, but I'll go over it again. وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت هيت لك قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. Now this is yet another test for Yusuf, not easier at all than the previous one. Perhaps it is much harder. We also explained last week that it is authenticated that Prophet Joseph was given half of the beauty that Allah created on earth or in the universe, but he had half of it in one person, compared with the rest of beauty given to all mankind and probably to other creation and creatures. Something that a lot of us would wish to have, not half of the beauty, but for sure there is a trend of people wanting to be handsome, wanting to be beautiful, wanting to be a little bit ahead in that game of beauty compared with the others. It may not be exclusive to women, but men and women alike, young and old, would love to think that they have an advantage in terms of beauty. But the beauty of Yusuf, being so handsome, on top of all the light of prophethood he had, attracted the attention of the wife of that person in Egypt. And she, in whose house he was, so the verses, it says وراودته التي هو في بيتها, which made it, on the one hand, much easier to commit the crime, to do what should not have been done. On the other hand, it was a big shame on the lady, on the woman, to seduce someone who lives in her household and taking advantage of. And she, in whose house he was, sought to seduce him to do an evil act. She closed the doors and said, "Come on, O you." So she prepared the scene. She made sure that the doors are shut. No one can see what's going on, and she can have Yusuf for herself. But she had to convince him. Come on, O you. Hayta lak. Hayta lak, it means a few things in the Arabic language. Hayta may have been from the word hita in some of the readings, means I have prepared myself, and lak is for you. Hita lak means, look, I am all yours. I am prepared for you. So that hita, and it also it is an invitation. Hita lak, come on, or you, and many other names in a single three-lettered word. قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. Yusuf was deterred by being a prophet, by being a pious person, by being a descendant of pious people, by being from a household who guarded chastity and guarded moral conduct and never accepted such an act. قال معاذ الله, I seek refuge in Allah, or it also means Allah forbid. No way. It's out of the question. So on the one hand, he remembered the Creator because he knew that Allah is watching over him, is seeing what he is doing, and he knows it is an evil act that no good person should do. But also there are other reasons, and for us, when we are in a situation, we need to remember all the elements that can make us do something or refrain from doing something. Not just the one. There are many, many reasons for us to do what is right. And we need to remember as many as we can in that situation. But also, to refrain from doing something, we need to remember and to think of all the deterrents that should stop us from indeed doing such an evil act. And that's what Yusuf actually did in a way that he eventually succeeded to get out of that bad situation. So the other reason, إنه ربي أحسن مثواي. Truly, he, reference to her husband, your husband, is my master. He made me stay, he made my stay agreeable. He made me comfortable. He looked after me. He treated me like a son. So enough reason is the piety and the fear of punish to come later and to do an evil act, but also he was remembering other reasons, and the other reasons he was expressing and actually reminding the woman of her husband. She is a married woman and her husband looked after him. So he was saying, إِنَّهُ رَبِّي أَحْسَنَ مَثْوَاي. He is my master. And by the way, just here for some language, Ar-Rabb in Arabic language is Ra, Ba, Ba, Rabb, because the Ba is mushaddada. There is two Bas and Ba, and it is in one Ba. Ar-Rabb is the Lord, and it can be the master. Now, the word Rabb can be attributed to people. You say Rabb al-Amal, the master of the profession, that is your boss. And you say Rabbat al-Bayt, reference to a woman that she is the master of her home. And also Rabb al-Bayt is also the master of the house, and so on. But if it is absolute, if you say Ar-Rabb, then it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a reference to the Creator. One of his attributes is Ar-Rabb. And Ar-Rabb is the one who looks after us. He is the creator. He is the sustainer. He is the cherisher. He is the one who gives us all what we have. He is the one who guards over us and watches over us. So it is everything that our creator, Allah, gives us. And the other name is Ilah, is God, or Al-Ilah, or Allah in Arabic. So Allah is derived from the word Ilah, and Ilah is God with a capital G. And God means He is the creator that you ought to show your obedience to, worship, pray to, fast for, sacrifice for, etc., etc. So these are the two attributes of God. One is what He gives His creation, and the other one what God requires from us in return to worship Him, to glorify Him, to obey Him, to follow His messengers, to be good in our lives. And all of that, of course, is for our own benefit. Here it is, if you're just wondering, if you know the Arabic language, this is used here. Innahu Rabbi, He is my Rabb. Rabbi means He is my master. Reference to the woman's husband. Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwaya. So He is my master, and He actually was good to me. Innahu la yuflihu al-zalimun. Verily, the transgressors or wrongdoers or evildoers will never succeed. Innahu la yuflihu al-zalimun. So this is a wrongdoing. It may be a consent from the woman, it may be a consent by the two, but it is forbidden by God, and also it is forbidden by the sheer contract of marriage and the vows and the ties between a man and a woman. So Yusuf remembered all the elements, all the reasons why he shouldn't agree to such an act. Did she? So that was his case. He put forth his defense to such an evil situation, but she was determined, she was adamant to go ahead with her plans. And وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَن رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلَصِينَ. And indeed, she did desire him. Now, before I read the translation, because a translation, by the way, depends on the tafsir, depends on the viewpoint. Sometimes it may mean just the one thing. Sometimes there are two or more opinions, which means that and sometimes these opinions are conflicting. Oftentimes these opinions are just viewpoints on the same thing, describing the same thing in a different way. So they are different, but they are not opposite. They all can be used. You could say, for example, a tall man, and you could say a professional man, and you could say a father, describing one person. Now, there are no contradiction between this. He could be tall and he could be professional and a father at the same time. But you could no way say that he is a tall man and then you say he's a short man, because one opposes the other. And here, hammat bihi, for sure, al-ham means that you have an intention to do something and you go on doing it. Hammat bihi, it means that she actually, after what he told her, she was not deterred. She wanted him. Hammat bihi. Now the same word, although used وَهَمَّ بِهَا, it means that he also had something against her or towards her. This is where we have the contention between the Mufassirin. So the Mufassirun, they had different opinions. Now, the opinion of Muslims and the Muslim scholars that prophets will never do major sins. They would never intentionally kill. They will never intentionally lie. They will never intentionally do the major sins that they were described in Islam and probably in other religions to be major. And some scholars say that prophets don't even do the minor sins. And this is the term of isma, that they are prevented. They have the protection from falling into major sins. That for sure this is agreed upon all the scholars. Some they say they can commit the minor sins, which is the things that humans, by the virtue of mortality and being weak, can commit. So for sure, based on that, it is impossible that Yusuf may have had the tendency towards that woman. Some they say they had the intentional tendencies. It's like you see something, you like it, but you never touch it. You never do it. And that happens to people. They may think of doing something which is not good, but they will never do it. They will refrain. So it's something that occurs to them by being humans. But the prophets are not ordinary humans. They are humans, of course. They have feelings, they have tendencies, but they are protected. They are role models. They are people that lead the way to humankind to walk into their footsteps. So at worst, if at all, that there was some intention or some attraction intended, but he never did anything bad, for sure. But also, many scholars say that hammat bihi means that she did desire him. Wa hamma biha, al-ham is a general word which means intended to do something. Al-ham is just about to do something. So if you are angry, you're just about to explode and say bad things. But you don't. So that's al-ham. So the word hamma here and hammat is not specific to the act that the woman was after. I must say that at the outset of this ayah. Al-ham can be for anything. You may intend to eat. You may intend to do something good or bad. And that I will mention a hadith, which is, I think, useful to say. But I uphold the opinion that Yusuf, some Mufassirun, they said that when he saw her coming towards him with her intention for what she wanted him to do with her, that is, of course, adultery, we know that, he actually wanted to defend himself by physically pushing her or beating her or to defend himself. But even that he didn't do. So whatever you think, Yusuf never had the intention to reciprocate that desire with the woman. That I uphold. although in some tafsir they bring it. They say that, you know, he had, as a human, he felt something, he had the intention. But it is obvious from the beginning, from the way he was refusing, that never occurred to him. He put his case, and then she didn't budge, if you like. She did not respond in a positive way to say, "Oh, you are right, you know. Oh, let's leave it. That is an evil thing to do." No, he was saying to her that he couldn't do that, and her response was to go after him. So there couldn't be a reciprocated response in the same way. Almost impossible, not instantaneously, because he had the time, by her inviting him, to have that intention. But that intention does not appear in ayah number 23, the previous ayah, verse I explained just now. So anyway, Allah knows best. Eventually, nothing happens anyway. So eventually, nothing, whatever opinion you may think or a scholar may take, there was nothing happening between Yusuf and that woman. وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَن رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. So in my opinion, and in the opinion of the majority of scholars, the second ham, that is, her intention was obvious. She intended what she intended towards him, and she wanted to pursue her intention, for sure. But his intention, as to reciprocate that, was really to do something physical in a way to push her away, or to beat her, or whatever. So that was, God knows best, is his intention. So he was inclined not to as to her desire, but inclined to perhaps push her away or beat her or something like that, as a defense, because that is one reaction from her which is obvious, but his reaction, according to what he said previously, is different intention for sure. But even that he didn't do, had he not seen the evidence of his Lord. There are many tafsirs for that. He saw his father Yaqub, you know, he envisioned him, he remembered something in the past, whatever that was, but he felt that he should not have done that, which is the intention to push her away or beat her or whatever, because even that is wrong. He is, remember, a prophet. كذلك لنصرف عنه السوء والفحشاء إنه من عبادنا المخلصين. Thus it was that we might turn away from him evil and illegal sexual intercourse. Surely he was one of our chosen, guided slaves. So he is chosen, he is guided, he is mukhlas, he has the pure intention, he has the purity towards his Lord. His actions should only be within the teachings of the revelation, which of course the illegal sexual intercourse or activities were always disallowed, for sure, in all religions. So he was not indulged in any of that. إنه من عبادنا المخلصين. So he cannot have done anything bad. Now, just for this intention, hamma, there is a hadith that من هم بحسنة فلم يعملها كتبت له حسنة ومن هم بحسنة فعملها كتبت له 10 حسنات. Hamma means intended to do. There is a prophetic hadith or prophetic teaching which says that if you intend to do a good deed, you have the real intention to do a good deed, but then you don't do it, then you will be rewarded as you have done it. If you do it, then you will reward it 10 times of what you have done. And if you intend to do a bad deed and then you refrain from it, then you will be rewarded. And if you do it, then you will have only, if you do a bad deed, then it is written one bad deed against you in your bad books. So the intention to do a good deed, of course, if you intend to do a good deed and you went to do it and you couldn't do it because you were prevented, then we know that Allah will reward you fully for that. But if you intend to do something good, then for some reason you may change your mind, then that intention is encouraged in Islam, then you will be rewarded by one good deed, hasana we call it. The intention of a bad deed and not doing a bad deed is also rewarded in Islam by hasana, by a good deed, because people should be encouraged. If they had a bad intention and they don't do the bad and evil deed, they should be encouraged and hence they are rewarded. Only when they do the bad deed, then they have one sayyah, that is a bad deed in their bad books. Some scholars, they put that in the tafsir of this ayah. واستبق الباب وقدت قميصه من دبر وألف يا سيدها لدى الباب قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا إلا أن يسجن أو عذاب أليم. What happens next? It was first a discussion which he refused, then it was an intention, and then now he was fleeing the whole situation. There is no way out of it but to get to the door. واستبق الباب. So they raced with one another to the door. Now, this is how the Quran is so succinct and concise. This is the one of the miracles of Al-Quran. It doesn't waste a lot of words to describe a situation. واستبق الباب means they were both racing towards the door. Now, they weren't like racing to who gets to the door first, for sure. So reading from the previous verses, it was one after the other. And for sure, it was Yusuf fleeing the situation and the woman chasing after him. She's still adamant. She's still persisting on getting him to what she desires. So simply it says واستبق الباب. They raced towards the door. It didn't say anything else, because it's obvious that Yusuf is Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, was racing towards the door and the woman was chasing after him. So they were both towards the door, but for different things. He is getting to the door to get out of the situation, but she was chasing towards him, which he was towards the door. So it looks as if both of them are chasing towards the door. واستبق الباب وقدت قميصه من دبر. Because the next sentence, it says that she tore his shirt from the back. So there is no need to explain a lot about how this chasing happened. If she tore his shirt from the back, it's obvious that he was in front of her towards the door, and she was chasing after him, pulling him towards her back to what she wants and what she desires. So she tore his shirt. Again, it's the shirt, isn't it? In the first story, his shirt was taken to his father with blood on it, to say that a wolf devoured him. and now the shirt is torn. And again, so they wanted to have an وَجَاءُوا عَلَى قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ. They came with a false blood on his shirt to prove their case. And now there is another case here. وَقَدَّتْ قَمِيصَهُ مِنْ دُبُرٍ. And she tore his shirt from the back. They both found her master, that is her husband, at the door. So at that very moment, towards the door, the master is coming through the door. So the whole thing looks very suspicious. Immediately, قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا إلا أن يسجن أو عذاب أليم. So she wanted to turn the truth upside down, as his brothers tried to convince his father that a wolf devoured him. She said, what is the recompense? What is the punishment for him who intended an evil design against your wife? So that is the woman telling her husband immediately when she saw the husband, what is the punishment of someone who desired your wife? Man arada bi ahlika su'an. And she said su'an. Now she is admitting that this is a su' is something bad, an evil act. So she's saying, what is the punishment of someone who intended an evil act against your wife? She's addressing her husband now. But to be imprisoned or painful torment or painful torture, if you like, or torment or punishment. Now, again, the shirt is being used for a false evidence. In the first instant, last time, the father looked at the shirt, and the shirt was intact. And the wolf does not attack a person and the blood on that shirt without having to cause a tear in the shirt. The shirt was intact, and now the shirt is torn. But how is he going to get out of that? قال هي راودتني عن نفسي وشهد شاهد من أهلها إن كان قميصه قد من قبل فصدقت وهو من الكاذبين وإن كان قميصه قد من دبر فكذبت وهو من الصادقين. قال هي راودت. He said, which is now Yusuf, it was she that sought to seduce me. قال هي راودتني عن نفسي. What else? That is the truth. She is the one who embarked on seducing the boy or the young chap. He was a young chap. قال هي راودتني عن نفسي. It was she that sought to seduce me. Then it says here, وشهد شاهد من أهلها. A witness, a household bore witness saying. Now, شهد شاهد من أهلها. The proposition, أهلها, it can be that a witness is from her household or from her family. So it can mean a witness from the household. Of course, it's a rich, large, affluent household with apparently servants and so on. So there could be others living there from her family, or could be from the household. In any case, again, Quran does not bother exactly saying was that a man or a woman? Because shahid is a witness, although it comes in a masculine form, but a shahid can be a man or a woman, can be feminine or masculine. It is not known. All what we need is that witness is from the household and most probably from her own family. So they should be on her side. And yet, they said the right thing. They said if the shirt is torn from the front, then she is telling the truth and he is a liar. And the witness of her household bore witness, saying, if it be that his shirt is torn from the front, then her tale is true and he is a liar. Because now she said something and Yusuf said, hiya rawadatni an nafsi. It was she that sought to seduce me. So there are conflicting, if you like, sentences from both sides. And the one who is trying to make judgment said that if the shirt is torn from the front, it means that he was attacking and she was trying to defend herself. So it would be torn from the front. So this is what I was alluding, is there are two statements. One statement from, if you like, the accused, which is Yusuf, and one statement from the defender, which is the woman, although the story isn't like that. He is the one who was transgressed upon, he was sought to seduce, etc. But now in this situation, he seems to be accused and she seems to be defending herself. So the witness said that, look at the shirt. If the shirt is torn from the front, then she is telling the truth. Her statement is correct. Her tale is good, intact, and he is a liar. But if it is he that his shirt is torn from the back, then she has told a lie and he is speaking the truth. وإن كان قميصه قد من دبر فكذبت وهو من الصادقين. If the shirt is torn from the back, it means that he was fleeing, he was running away from her, and she was chasing him. It's logic. So they went now to the shirt to check. And the shirt, فلما رأى قميصه قد من دبر قال إنه من كيدكن إن كيدكن عظيم. So he, that is the husband, her husband, saw his shirt, Yusuf's shirt torn at the back. Her husband said, surely it is a plot of you, women. Certainly mighty is your plot. It was obvious, and for the husband, unfortunately, his wife is telling fibs, is telling lies. And he realized that it is something that she made up, and he went even to say that surely it is a plot of you women. Of course, he was referring to her and thinking that it is an evil plot. She intended something, so it was obvious to him. He's an experienced man, and we learn that he is actually Al-Aziz, which is the treasurer, or he is in the head of the treasury to the king. So he was responsible for the treasury of Egypt at the time. So he's a very experienced man. He is, as they say, he wasn't born yesterday. So it was evident, and he had no doubt that his wife was at fault. إنه من كيدكن إن كيدكن عظيم. Certainly mighty is your plot. What happens next? يوسف أعرض عن هذا واستغفري لذنبك إنك كنت من الخاطئين. O Yusuf, turn away from this. O women, ask ask forgiveness for your sin. Verily, you were of the sinful. So that was the verdict, if you like, by the husband. He said, Yusuf, just forget it. And unfortunately, in the lives of affluent people and people with richness, unfortunately, sometimes this is the way they deal with things. Just forget about it. The woman will not be touched, will not be punished. I think at this stage, Yusuf was very lucky not to be punished himself, because we know that if we read stories, historical stories, that in the past, if a servant was in such a situation, the servant will be punished, even though he would have been innocent, but he would be punished so as people will know that, yeah, he did the sin. But here, at least, on the one hand, he was fair. He did not punish Yusuf. So he said, Yusuf, أعرض عن هذا, turn away from this, forget it, as we say, just forget it, don't mention it, and consider it never happened, as they say. And for her, he said, استغفري لذنبك, ask for forgiveness for your sin. You were a sinner. Okay, so that was that. But unfortunate for her, and in such households with richness and a lot of servants, etc., the word goes out. So it went to the town, and women in the town started to talk about the situation. This is what is called ghiba, is gossip. And by the way, ghiba in Islam is one of the major sins, to talk, to gossip or to talk about your brother or sister while they are not there is a great sin. And one man asked the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, if my brother or sister, they had what I'm saying, so if you say such and such is so and so is such and such, he said, what about if actually he did have what I'm saying? He said, if he has, or she, what you are saying, then this is gossip. فقد اغتبت والله لئن كان فيه فقد اغتبت وإن لم يكن فيه فقد بهت. If the person has that attribute, what you're saying, then this is indeed gossip. So they were gossiping here, although it is a true story, but this is considered to be gossip. And then if the person didn't have what we are talking on his back about, then this is bahatta, means it's a great lie about the person. So in both cases, it is forbidden to say something that is bad in the back of a person, is ghiba, is gossip, and it is a major sin. And the Quran said it is like eating the flesh of the dead. أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه فكرهتموه. Do you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother or sister? You would hate that. So it's like eating the flesh of the person while that person is dead, because that person is not present to defend themselves. Anyway, we go back to the town. وقال نسوة في المدينة امرأة العزيز تراود فتاها عن نفسه قد شغفها حبا إنا لنراها في ضلال مبين. Verily, and women in the city said, the wife of Al-Aziz. Al-Aziz is that, if you like, the treasurer, the one who is responsible in the government about the treasures, about money, about the income, and about expenditure. Is seeking to seduce her slave. So the wife of Al-Aziz. And when they said, for sure they knew her name. Her name is not there. But they didn't say her name. They said the wife of the Al-Aziz, the treasurer. To highlight the sin of that woman. So they were gossiping in a big way. Say, how come she is the wife of the treasurer of Egypt? Egypt was a superpower for sure at that time. And even today, Egypt can play a very big part in the world, politically, socially, and in many aspects. But nevertheless, at that time, Egypt was a great place, and this is the treasurer, the one responsible for the treasury of the country, and she is seducing her boy, Fatah, a boy poor boy who is in her household. So they were in their gossip, they were trying to say something really bad. A woman in the city said, the wife of Al-Aziz is seeking to seduce her slave, young man. Indeed, she loves him violently. Verily, we see her in plain error. Inna lanaraha fi dalalin mubin. So that's what they were saying, trying to repeat that story in the saloons, if you like, of the time. And these seem to be also from the upper class. If class was present at that time, they were from the upper class, and they were gossiping about her, saying that she's trying to seduce. She is the wife of the treasurer, and she's trying to seduce a boy, and she was violently in love with him in a sexual matter, in a sexual way, I mean. Inna lanaraha fi dalalin mubin. Verily, we see her in plain error. Again, as the rumors play and the gossip, it plays from one side to the other. And this is why Islam made gossip a major sin. It can bring hatred, it can bring uncertainty, it can destroy lives, it can bring what was hidden and should have stayed hidden to the public of the eye. And Islam is very much interested, if something is hidden, if a sin is hidden, is to remain hidden. Because by highlighting that and people knowing about it, people start to think that, well, it's happening everywhere. It may encourage people with ill self-esteem, with people with low self-esteem, people who have the tendency to do bad things, but they're not doing them. When they hear that it is being done, it encourages them. I can give a lot of examples on that. So it is in Islam, hidden things should stay hidden. And if it comes to the attention of the authorities, then the authorities will deal with it by the law, not through gossip and bouncing gossip from one place to the other. And by the way, gossip is to mention a person while they are not present, and namima is to bring the story from one person to the other. So you go and you say, oh, so and so said something about you, and then you go to the second person and say, well, he said such and such about you, and that will also bring hatred into the society, and it is also a major sin. That was happening here. There was gossip, there was what we call namima, which means carrying bad news between two parties to agitate them against each other. فلما سمعت بمكرهن أرسلت إليهن وأعتدت لهن متكئا وآتت كل واحدة منهن سكينا وقالت اخرج عليهن فلما رأينه أكبرنه وقطعن أيديهن وقلنا حاشا لله ما هذا بشرا إن هذا إلا ملك كريم. Now the wife of Al-Aziz knew about them, and then she invited them to a party, if you like. And we will continue with that, inshallah, even during the month of Ramadan. We'll continue with the tafsir at the same time, 6 o'clock every Thursday, by the will of Allah. If Allah gives life to me, inshallah, I will continue to do that, as well as the Friday remembrance, the Friday talk, which I give at 1:05 every Friday. And I stop here with the intention to continue, but also I'd like to congratulate all of you to the arrival of the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is tomorrow. It is the month of forgiveness. So forgive each other, forgive one another. It is the month of Quran. Read Quran. Be nearer to Allah. It is the month of charity. Be charitable. It is the time of charity, dear brothers and sisters. Ramadan is the month of obedience. Ramadan is the month of being close to your parents, to your children, to your neighbors. And I mean close by the heart. Of course, within your household, you are also physically close, but during the lockdown, be close with the heart. Remember those who are less fortunate than you, and continue to be charitable to them. It is the month of prayers. Raise your hands and pray that Allah may lift this plague and this coronavirus, COVID-19, from earth, and return all of us, all humankind, to normality. And we should use that month to pray. Fasting the month of Ramadan is one of the great pillars of Islam. It teaches piety, it teaches strength, it teaches nearness to Allah. You would deprive your physical being so as your spirit will be high and nearer to the Lord and to the Creator. Many, many congratulations. I hope tomorrow to be able to give more insight about Ramadan during lockdown by the will of Allah. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا. اللهم ارحمنا فإنك بنا راحم والطف بنا بما جرت به المقادير. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من البرص والجنون والجذام ومن سيء الأسقام. Oh Allah, lift this plague from our lives and make us strong people and make us good people and make us nearer to you. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah accept from you and from me. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.